are stories that connect us to ourselves and each other. These stories reveal who we are and show us the many vivid, wild colors of our truth. Welcome to Soul Wanderings, where we raise spiritual awareness and foster connections through these shared stories and personal experiences. And now, exclusively on KGRA Radio, I give you your host for Soul Wanderings Radio. Here's AJ.
Hello, happy day, friend. It's time for some soul wandering, the opportunity to hear journey stories, experiences from all kinds of people, all walks of life, who show up to share authentic pieces of themselves with all of us. And I am AJ Rasmussen, your host. I'm so happy to have you here with us this evening. Soul Wanderings is a comfy, cozy get-together where we meet so many incredible humans, but in the comfort of our own homes. We get to talk about all things spiritual, metaphysical, paranormal, inspirational, motivational, all those kinds of wonderful topics, and we get to spend the time together. So thanks for being here. You can participate during the show if you're interested, and you can do that by hanging out in the chat room. And that is hosted here on kgraradio.com. So if you're listening live with us, make sure you guys head on over there, because while we wander with our guest, I also hang out in the chat room with you. It's a fun way to interact in conversation behind the scenes about the topic and ask those questions that may come up for you. And if you guys do end up having a question or two, make sure you do type them all in caps, then I can see them easier and make sure I ask our guest as time allows us to do so. And we're going to have a lot to visit about tonight. And I'm really excited that our guest reached out to me. This topic is near and dear to my heart, and I think everyone needs to know about this type of relationship and relationships in general, healthy relationships and not so healthy ones, so we can learn from those experiences. So without further delay, let's begin to wander. A survivor of childhood abuse herself, Dr. Rita Louise has emerged as a gifted empath and talented clairvoyant medical intuitive. She's a naturopathic physician and the founder of the Institute of Applied Energetics that trains students in the art of medical intuition, intuitive counseling, and energy medicine. She has authored 6 books and produced several feature-length and short films, and has appeared on radio, television, in movies, and has lectured on health and healing, ghosts, intuition, ancient mysteries, and the paranormal. Her books and articles have worldwide circulation, and tonight we'll be able to hear about the latest creation of Dr. Louise, The Dysfunctional Dance of the Empath and Narcissist. It's a book about relationships, which we found would be perfect, seeing how this is Valentine's week. It's just in a couple of days. So let's welcome to the show, Dr. Rita Louise.
Hi, AJ. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Thanks for reaching out. I am so glad that you did. And just at the very perfect opportunity with, quote unquote, love in the air and all of those those weird holiday themes. But yes, this will be really great, a really great topic once we get to know you a little more to really get into and discuss.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. So I'm sure because a lot of our listeners are regular KGRA radio listeners, they listen to most of the programs here on the station. So they're probably pretty familiar with you because you are a guest of the station. And for those who aren't familiar with you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, our 2 hours are up now. Okay, so
Well,
let's
you
see.
can take as long as you want. We can talk about the book in the second half of the show.
I mean, at this point in time, I work as a naturopathic physician and medical intuitive. And so I work with people, helping them to identify what's going on with them on physical, emotional, and spiritual levels. I'm an avid researcher. And so if you look at other titles that I've written, like this book is about toxic relationships, but my other books have covered ghosts and ghost hunting. Two of my books really delve into ancient mysteries and ancient aliens. And I have 2 books that talk about health and healing, energy medicine, and psychic abilities. So some people that know me think, wow, she's all over the map. But I really love researching and studying, and and I joke around and say, I'm the person that reads those really dry and dusty books that no one else wants to touch, and then writes a book report about them. So
you're doing exactly what you love to do.
I am.
I had heard somewhere, I think I was watching a video you had on your website where you had mentioned that you grew up in an alternative thought household.
Right.
Tell me a bit about that, like your upbringing and what allowed you to become so open in these diverse topics. And
so, I don't know if alternative thought is the correct word, because there's actually a whole definition tied to that phrase. I grew up in a sci-fi horror household. My mom was into Star Trek and One Step Beyond and The Prisoner and all of these shows. And, Saturday mornings we'd watch Creature Feature on TV. And, one of her favorite horror movies was House on Haunted Hill with Vincent Price. And, and so growing up in that environment made it be okay to talk about weird stuff. I mean, if you're watching, Twilight Zone or Outer Limits, all of those shows were just kind of strange and weird. And, The Prisoner was the ultimate conspiracy theory show, before conspiracy theories were even anything on the map. Mm-hmm. And so it just, in my mind, created permission to really think outside the box, and look at the world from a different perspective than what was just being presented in black and white, because, you look at some of these shows and stuff, and there are different realities being presented that, now, we sit here and talk about, reptilians that live in underground bases, and,
it's normal.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just sit there and go, well, I don't know that I believe it, but if a reptilian stepped out from an underground base and was on national news, I would be okay with it, and it wouldn't be shocking to me, so.
So you pretty much have heard it all, basically. It's just a matter of deciding if it's your truth or not.
Exactly. And I think if you work in the, I had a radio show for 10 years, and I covered all kinds of, if it was weird, we talked about it on my show, and so when you're in that genre, it's like you hear a lot of different thoughts, a lot of different opinions, and you just, for me, I would just take it in and go, it could be true. When you die, you could go to heaven. But then there are people that say, well, there really isn't any heaven, and you just turn into energy and, just kind of float around the universe, as an energy. I don't know. I haven't been there. Well, so.
What's your take on it? What do you think happens to us?
Well, doing ghost hunting, I have done, worked with a number of different teams doing investigations. This was a number of years ago at this point in time. And I was the group psychic, which was cool because I didn't have to have any equipment. And 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 I fully believe that there are spirits that inhabit our earth, and there are spirits that people that die and they cross over and then they come back and visit. And so there is a variety of non-corporeal beings that inhabit our world. Mm-hmm. And so if that's the case, if I'm interacting with these souls, then it's not like you die and go to heaven or go to hell and then you're just locked up there. So
you just feel like we're all over the place.
We're all over the place. And, and I can't say that there isn't a quote unquote heaven-like place, but it doesn't seem like you have to stay there 24/7. Mm-hmm. That there's freedom to come and go as you please.
That'll be lovely.
Mm-hmm. I'm just hoping you don't have to work, when you're there, and it's, fun.
Yeah, right? Nothing like this. I've heard it's a lot different and a lot more conducive, it's a happier place to be, definitely. Well, you've written all these books on ghosts and paranormal and things like that. What made you switch your genre over to dysfunctional relationships?
Well, it wasn't that I was really thinking about doing that. How's that? And in fact, I had just released my last book, Stepping Out of Eden, which was a follow-up to the book I wrote before that, which was E.T. Chronicles, What Myth and Legends Have to Say About Mankind, which were more ancient mystery, ancient alien type books. Mm-hmm. And was just in the process of promoting that. But I was in a relationship that was not working, and through a number of events, it was like this Band-Aid. I'm not going to tell this whole long, convoluted story, but it was like this giant Band-Aid had been ripped off my third eye, and I got to see how with the relationship, I had ended the relationship. And so how the relationship that I had just ended was like a marriage that I had ended, and was like a different marriage I had ended, and was like friends I had been interacting with. And it just kept tumbling back in time with me looking at all of these dynamics of people that I had in my life over the years. And it took me back to my family of origin, and it was shocking. It was just shocking. And are you familiar with the concept of the night of the soul?
The dark
night of the soul?
Very much so. Yeah.
And it took me to that place where it was like I hit rock bottom, and was like, I sit there and I think I'm pretty smart and I'm pretty intuitive. And this whole concept of toxic relationships was so off my radar. It was just not there at all. And now it was like in living color in my living room. And it was like, oh my God, you have to deal with this. I had no choice but to deal with it.
Right. There are some people who feel when they're in those situations that they don't have a choice and they stay in them.
Exactly. It's that they feel like they don't have a choice, or they don't know any better. They're not aware
Very true.
That the situation that they're in is toxic, because if you grew up in a toxic household, it's normal. Or they're not beating me. They're not yelling at me. They're not, these are my indicators, and if they're not doing this to me, well, then it must be okay. But it's really not.
Right. And I've been in a relationship that has been very toxic in regards to myself being an empath and the other a narcissist. And it really is quite a roller coaster, especially with the thoughts that go on in your mind. And when you don't know better, you don't know better. But when you do, you then have this knowing that it needs to change. And then after you get out of that relationship, at least for me, and correct me in your experience, you get out of the relationship and then you realize, wow, I got myself into this. I know I'm an empath now. I know this person was a narcissist. How do I not get myself into this situation again? What do I need to do? What do I need to heal? What does that look like for me going forward? And it is dark and it is heavy and it's a lot of work.
But I think part of it is also having the realization that what you've been doing has been toxic and not working. Right. Because until you sit there and go, oh, well, that wasn't good, and it wasn't healthy for me, then you can't start the process of changing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So before we talk more about this type of relationship and really get into it, why don't you give us a little synopsis about your book, the title, and what's it all about?
Okay, so the book is called The Dysfunctional Dance of the Empath and Narcissist. And what it does is it takes an in-depth look at the dynamics between the loving, compassionate, and often selfless empaths and those willing to take from them, the self-serving narcissist. And it endeavors to uncover the unconscious patterns that keep us trapped in cycles of abuse and toxic relationships.
So deep and so delicious, in my opinion. It's not a fun topic, but it is really neat to learn about, especially when you have some similarities or you get those little juicy nuggets to help yourself heal from those experiences.
Well, when I write, I how do I want to phrase this? I have learned over the years that it's easier to listen to the promptings of spirit and do what I'm told than not listen and get the 2x4 and have to clean it up on the back end. And so when I have written books, there's been this inner prompting about, you need to write a book. It's like, okay, you need to have a radio show. Okay, wasn't really on my radar, but okay. And, I was going somewhere with this. And, so this book really was the same way where, I started through this process and the next thing I knew, I was being told that I needed to write a book about it. And I'm like, okay. But I have been shocked. I've been honored that there is just so much interest in this topic. I think that the concept of people being empaths and then the whole narcissistic personality has really been coming to the forefront, and people are starting to look at themselves and what they need to do to live happier lives.
Mm-hmm. Very true. It seems to be more common these days than ever before. And they're also looking not just at themselves, but their relationships in general with friends and family and partners, and asking themselves how it all works for them for their highest good. Mm-hmm. Which we didn't really do that before.
And I don't know why. That's the part I don't know why. I often talk about, in school, they don't teach you to check in on your feelings. They don't teach you to be empathetic. They don't, there's just a lot of things that are part of who we are that are not really developed and explored, while we're going to school. And so there really is this big shift happening where people are starting to look inside and asking those questions. It's like, well, what about me? Mm-hmm. And what do I need to do, again, to be happy?
Right. And I hope that throughout the show, we'll be getting into that a little more in depth. I'm sure you have some answers for that.
I'm sure I do. Or I'll make them up, one or the other.
You're way through it. Because that's what you do. I want to get into the book some more, and because we have 2 hours, I don't want to rush it too much. I really am interested in some of the abilities that you have. so people can get a better feel for you and where your information is coming from. Okay. You are a naturopathic physician, which is really amazing. I love that. But hand in hand with being a medical intuitive, it's like a double whammy of goodness.
Well, I had gone to and graduated from the Berkeley Psychic Institute and was working as Rita the Psychic Chick because I really enjoyed doing relationship readings and looking at the energy dynamics between two things. So whether it's your relationship at work or business to business or in a romantic relationship, and it's kind of gossipy, so it makes it fun. And but when I started seeing clients and stuff, one of the things that I discovered was that I was always finding people's health issues. And people that I knew that had gone through the program with me, it's like they really didn't tune into that channel. So I discovered that it was something, very unique to me and the way I process energy. So while there are some people that are mediums, they talk to dead people. I don't do that, so please don't call because I don't do that. For me, it was really about health and wellness type things. And so spirit, it's that listening to spirit kept telling me to go back to school. I'd be, well, what should I do next? Go back to school. Well, what should I do next? Go back to school. So I got my Reiki certification. I got a hypnotherapy certification. And I'm like, okay, well, now what should I do? It's like, well, go back to school. And I'm like, ugh. So I finally went back to school and got my degree as a naturopath. And after being through the first semester of it, I knew that's where I was supposed to be, that was the path, that I needed to have more in-depth health training so that when somebody comes and, I remember early on, I'd be doing energy work on someone and I'd be like, there's a black glop of something on your back. I'm like, I think that might be your kidney. Yeah, that's around where your kidney should be. So now I can actually look at someone and notice that there's something going on in their back and recognize that it is their kidney, and actually dig into it deeper, because to me, there's the doctor brain that goes, well, here's your anatomy and physiology, and this is how things are supposed to work, and then there's the intuitive brain that's actually looking at it and evaluating it and assessing it. So it's really this bouncing back and forth information inside of my brain that goes into the session work that I do.
And you validate that in being truth just by the way that you feel, like from your clairability?
Correct. One of the things that I've learned about myself is that spirit will cut me off. Like if I want to sit there and candy coat something or not really tell the truth, it doesn't work. Yeah. Spirit will just cut me off, and it's just like, okay, I'll just be blunt here for a second. So
that's my favorite way when I've had readings or energy work done. It's just go straight to the point and just say what it really is that you're feeling.
Mm-hmm. And so when I'm working with people, there's what's going on functionally, well, I'm seeing that there's some inflammation in your kidney, or there's some gravel or some stones or whatever there might be, but then there's also the psycho-spiritual implications of why they created it in the first place, and so many of the times when I'm doing session work with people, there's, again, looking at what's going on functionally, but then there's helping them to identify why they created it and then offering them solutions, whether it's, take an herb or a supplement, go to the doctor because it's advanced to a place where you really do need to have some professional help, to, diet and exercise changes, to you need to get some energy work, or you're stuck on this core belief, and you need to do some clearing around it. Or, when you were 22 years old, there was a situation that happened that created this emotional response in you, and, the energy's still stuck there. The trauma is still there, and the trauma is sitting in this organ.
Ooh, I want to talk about that some more. Let's take a quick break, and when we return, let's talk more about that emotional, physical response due to our experiences. You guys are listening to Soul Wanderings here on KGRAradio.com. We are wandering with our guest, Dr. Rita Louise, and we will return shortly.
Join me, George Norrie, in Indian Wells, California, May 29th to June 1st for the Contact in the Desert UFO Conference, an epic weekend of exploration into UFOs, ancient civilizations, crop circles, and so much more. Over 150 lectures, panels, workshops, and events with leading experts: Paul Hellyer, Linda Moulton Howe, Nick Pope, Emery Smith, Stephen Greer, Russell Targ, Doc Wallach, Leslie Kane, and more. Get your tickets at contactinthedesert.com. It's time to make contact. Contactinthedesert.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied, but you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with, you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
The Laughlin UFO Mega Conference just announced an incredible addition to the world's greatest UFO event. Saturday, February 15th, we're going to see the final public presentation by Charles Hall. Following him, we will see the world premiere screening of the feature-length documentary based on his life, Walking with the Tall Whites. And during the 8 days, there will be 38 more world-class presentations. I am so glad we chose to be at the Laughlin UFO Mega Conference 2020 on February the 15th through the 22nd. So go now to LaughlinUFOMegaConference.com and register. You can still make the decision to attend the only not-to-be-missed UFO conference of 2020. It's simple. The world's greatest conference. 39 presentations you won't hear anywhere else. 8 days, lowest cost. Go to LaughlinUFOMegaConference.com. Register now at LaughlinUFOMegaConference.com.
Find the podcast on iTunes, iHeart, and Spotify. KGRARadio.com. This is Soul Wanderings Radio.
Hi, welcome back to the show. Tonight we are wandering with Dr. Rita Louise here on Soul Wanderings, hosted on KGRARadio.com. I really love the way this conversation is going, Dr. Rita, because the correlation between our physical pain linking to our emotional pain or past traumas or beliefs or anything like that. Obviously, you believe there's a connection.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
And when I first started doing, I'm going to say psychic work because because I was doing medical intuition before medical intuition was actually the term was coined.
Mm-hmm.
And it would mostly come up when I would be doing energy work on people, where I would be, clearing their aura, clearing their chakras, working on different things. I would see this big black glop and I'd go to clear that. And so there was always some level, and I'm going to say, of consciousness to it. There would be something tied to it. And, and so I don't want to say that every single issue has a emotional tie, but I am going to say that about 80% of the physical issues that we have, short of, I broke my leg, something external happened, has some kind of an emotional connection to it.
Well, even in breaking a leg, do you feel like that's a sign? Sometimes people will say it's a sign from the universe that maybe they need to slow down, or something to propel them forward.
I do believe that in certain situations, but from a reading perspective, that doesn't really show up in your auric field. And so I don't have anything to base it on because, again, it doesn't show up in the body. It doesn't show up in the auric field. It doesn't show up in the chakras.
Okay. Well, it's just I'm always curious between the connection between all of it. And there's a book I brought up in the show before, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard, but You Can Heal Your Life. Mm-hmm. And there's different physical things that you go through that if you look it up in the book, it will give you the reason why and the affirmation to change that energy in your experience.
Well, and I find that, and I'm going to say in a general sense, those definitions are pretty spot on, but we're all individuals. It's kind of a little bit, but not as vague as, your astrological chart. And so where you just look at your horoscope in the newspaper, there's a lot more that goes into a situation that's the You Can Heal Your Life book is a great starting point, but it's not, and I'm not dissing. It is totally not a dissing thing, the end all and be all, because we are complicated people, and how we might carry our energy or how we might respond to something because of our programming, it might manifest in a different way.
Yeah, I really like that you said that, because some people use that as a Bible of sorts. And it's just a great reference if, you are beginning into this arena of where you're trying to figure out where your energy is and what it could possibly mean. But it's like you said, it's just it's an opening, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Some people carry some very interesting things, some very weird things, some very, it's not abnormal when I'm working with someone. So one of the, again, I was talking about how we all have different channels, that we bring through information. And one of the things that I'm able to tap into are core beliefs, of what's kind of sitting underneath the layer upon layer upon layer of stuff. Yeah. Can I give a quick example?
Yes, please do.
So I had a client who was a type 1 diabetic. And so, he took the insulin shots, but he was also a chiropractor and was into alternative health and was trying to either make it so he could get off the insulin or really reduce the amount that he was taking. And so I'm, working on his pancreas and looking at the aisles of Langerhorn, which is the little glands that release the insulin into the body. And I said, well, I'm seeing that you had some issues with your mom that she was really controlling. And he was like, no, it wasn't my mom, it was my dad. Because that's our perception of what was going on. Right. And I was like, I'm not feeling that. He was like, no, I swear. So then I started digging deeper because I don't like when people tell me that I'm not right. And, especially when it's like, to me, it's like so clear.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, my mom was really kind and loving and this and that. And I said, yeah, but she used her sweetness and her love to control you.
Mm.
And you had to kind of back your energy away so that you could actually have some space, because she just totally invaded it, by being overcaring.
Mm.
And he just stopped and looked at me. And he goes, I never looked at it from that perspective.
Wow. That's intense.
Sometimes my sessions are pretty intense.
I would like a session with you. The whole spiritual community, at least where I'm at, is just kind of, and no offense to any of them. I'm like you. I like to say it how it is, but it's my observation, not necessarily a judgment or truth or their truth by any means, but it is very watered down and very cliche, if you will. I really like the facts. Like, if you feel this, tell me exactly what you feel, because I feel like there's truth in all of it. And even if I don't take it for what it is in that moment, if I sat on it for a while, more than likely I'm going to see where you're coming from and understand that you're right, which in return gives me a deeper growth experience.
I mean, one of the things that I found in my session work is that I'll say something to someone, and sometimes I don't feel like they're hearing me. Like they heard me physically, but they're not hearing me.
Mm-hmm.
And spirit will just sit there and just keep going on and on and on and on and on. And it's like, God. So then it's like, okay, I'm tired of talking about this. I'm going to move on to the next thing, and then like 5 minutes later, I'm back to what I was talking about before. And then there's like, I don't know, it's like, you just feel it click, like they get it.
Mm.
And then I'm done. And I can move on. Like, I can really move on to the next thing. It's just such a weird experience doing this kind of work, because, people go, well, what are you going to do? It's like, I don't know, something.
You just open yourself up and the information flows through you.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. I really like that.
And the part that I really do enjoy, is the fact that, I went and got my naturopathic degree, because, I can tell, which even seems weirder on some levels, I can tell when the doctor brain is talking versus when the intuitive brain is talking. So I'll be in the middle of a conversation and going like, blah, 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 blah. It's like, that was the doctor brain, so we're just going to put that over there. But let me look at that intuitively here for a second, because they really work well together, because the doctor brain wants to evaluate and assess and kind of dig and understand. There's a whole logical aspect to it, where the intuitive brain is like,
but they work so well together. I like how you have them, that they're combined. Mm-hmm. So you get the best of both worlds, literally.
Which I think is just so cool. Wasn't expecting it to work out this way. I mean, I wasn't really expecting anything, and I just feel blessed with how it has come together. How's that?
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I think that it's really neat when we find one day that we know what our life purpose is. Some of us have that opportunity, get that experience, but it's really neat when you didn't see it on your radar at all to begin with. Like, you did not see this coming, and here you are doing the things that you do. And I just think how awesome it is to have this type of purpose and meaning in your life that you didn't see coming, but it's so rewarding and so neat to have.
Well, I have to tell you, so when I was like 12 or 13, and I totally date myself with this story. So on TV, there was a series called The Amazing Kreskin, and he was a mentalist, and he had ESP. And at around the same time, there was another series called The Sixth Sense, which was about a college professor who had ESP. And I wanted to have ESP so bad, but I just didn't think that I, had it, and wasn't, I didn't really understand it. I just kept waiting for, all right, so in The Sixth Sense, in a number of the different episodes, it was kind of like Murder, She Wrote, like a little murder mystery, show. And he would use his psychic abilities to solve the crime. And so he would walk into a room and, touch a piece of paper or pick up a candlestick and, the spirit of the dead person would show up and tell him who the murderer was. Man, I was waiting for that to happen. It never freaking happened, probably because I don't want dead people coming around, but that never happened. And so when I found the Berkeley Psychic Institute, I just was interested in doing it, and by the time I left working with them, I was an assistant pastor. I was only with them for 2 years. I was an assistant pastor, and when you did readings with that organization, it was never a one-on-one situation, or very rarely a one-on-one situation. There was always a group of psychics that were doing a reading per one individual person. Mm-hmm. And so I had finished their basic program and had moved into this advanced group with these people that had been graduated for like 7 years, 15 years. I mean, they were way smarter than me at that point in time. And so they had me take the lead position in this group, where basically I was interacting with the client. And at first I thought, well, maybe they just want me to get comfortable doing it. You know what I mean? I didn't really know. I was the new person. And so finally I asked the pastor, I said, well, how come you have me sitting center chair? And she just looked at me, she goes, because you're the best reader we have. Oh. I'm like, really? Really? Me? Little old me?
And all along you wanted to be clairvoyant, and you had the ability all along.
Then I officially became Rita the Psychic Chick.
I love that, the Psychic Chick.
Uh-huh.
That's good. That's really good. Do you feel like we all have the ability to be clairvoyant or have a clairability?
I do believe that. I think that everybody, that intuition or ability to sense energy around us is just built into being human. I mean, if you think about it, animals, and, I'm not meaning to compare us to animals, but animals, they can sense when there's a predator around them, even though they might not see them, mm-hmm. and react to it. And so we still have that built into us, and I've taught classes on intuition, and in all of my years of doing this work, I've only met, bless her heart, one woman who was in charge of a ghost hunting team that I was part of, who nothing. I mean, literally nothing. I mean, we would go into some of the creepiest places, and I'd go to one area of the room and go, oh my God, the energy is just so bad here, and then other people from the group would be like, okay, walk through this, and they're like, oh my God, I see what you mean. I'd have her walk through the same area, and she'd be like, I don't get anything. I'm like, really? Really? Everybody else felt it. But no, I think that, like tuning into our feelings and identifying what's going on inside of us, it's like we're not taught to tap into that information at all. Obviously, many Western religions have made it be bad and devil stuff.
Right.
And, but you go into more traditional spiritual practices, Native Americans, Hinduism, Buddhism, they very much are into accessing and interacting with an unseen world, a subtle world.
Right. Yeah, it really is fascinating. that we're all hanging out in the same room. We just can't see each other.
Mm-hmm.
I just love it. This is the stuff that I grew up on as well. You talked about the way that you were raised, and mine was very similar. We talked about these types of things. My dad used to take me ghost hunting in like old mining towns here in the West, and we would stay up all night and listen to like Art Bell and watch, Alfred Hitchcock and just really fun thing, like a really cool childhood as far as that goes. We were introduced to like stones, and we saged our house, just really cool things. And so it has always been in my awareness and really cool. But as you grow up, you kind of, to shy away from your childhood and try to figure out things on your own. But it is coming back, or remembering, if you will, of what's true for you. And it always comes full circle.
Mm-hmm. When I was young, so my first love in life was archaeology and anthropology. So before I found like the ESP section in the library, I had literally read my way through the whole archaeology and anthropology department at the library, much to the chagrins of the nuns at the Catholic school that I was enrolled at. And, because I was fascinated by the theory of evolution and, a bucket list item. I actually went to the La Brea tar pit, which I thought was out in the middle of nowhere, desert somewhere, I don't even know. And it turned out to be right next door to the Museum of Modern Art in downtown Los Angeles. And it was like, seriously? So I went, and it was like, oh my God, I got like some La Brea tar and everything. It was just awesome.
Yeah.
And then my second love in life was doing the psychic work, and so for the last however many years, that's what I've been doing, and when the interest in ancient aliens came to the forefront, it gave me the opportunity to go back and revisit my first love, antiquity, so I really feel like, career-wise, I mean, even though I had like a regular day job and I was very successful in doing it and everything, I've really had the opportunity to live a life satisfying my desires, I guess. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? But really listening to where spirit is pushing me, because if you say, well, what are you going to be doing next year? I don't know.
Yeah. So you're not one of those people who plan out the next 5-10 years of their life. You just kind of wing it and go with the flow.
But see, I don't really wing it and go with the flow. I just do whatever spirit pretty much tells me to do. Okay,
that's my way of saying, yeah. Okay. See, I'm the same way, though. If I have a prompting to do something, I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about trusting your gut and your intuition, because, spirit does know what's best for you more than you know for yourself. And even if it's not on your radar and you're getting that prompting, it's a really good idea to follow it.
And sometimes, and just for the listeners, sometimes you get directed to do weird stuff,
mm-hmm.
That is, not on your radar and sometimes outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
And my experience has been that it has always been worthwhile to just go with it. All right. It doesn't mean that I don't argue with spirit periodically, but
are you kidding me? Am I really supposed to do this?
Well, you can't imagine that I would do that. But bottom line, I do it.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about, having spirit tell me to go back to school. Well, it took me 3 years to get from you should go back to school to actually going back to school, like real school. And then, I finished up my naturopath degree, and so like the next week I'm like, well, I wonder what I should be doing next. You should never ask yourself questions ever. And the message I got was, well, you need to get your PhD and then write a book. And I'm like, oh,
that's it?
Yeah, that's it. But I have to tell you something, AJ. Once I finished up my PhD, they have not ever suggested I go back to school again.
Well, good. Good for you.
I'm just like, ooh, I'm done with that tract.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of schooling. So thank goodness for you. You can move on to other things, and you have the PhD in your pocket as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, it was worth, the time, and I'm very grateful that I did listen.
Mm-hmm.
Now they just have me on this like book writing thing.
This book writing thing, which the whole second half of the show, we're going to take our last break here in a few minutes. We're going to get into it because I really am excited to talk more in depth about those relationships. But just really quick, we have a question from the chat room before we head into the break. We have Libertas. He was wondering if you have a book recommendation for homeopathic medicine.
I'm not a homeopathist,
okay.
And so I don't.
So very different from naturopath?
Well, I mean, naturopathy is kind of an umbrella term, and so basically it is utilizing modalities that are non-invasive to the body. So whether it's diet and exercise, soaking in the bathtub, taking herbs or supplements, you're working with homeopathics, working with aromatherapy, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so you can specialize in different areas, Ayurvedic medicine falls under that category too, and so I'm more of an herb supplement kind of gal, but really where I shine is in helping you identify what's going on and then doing energy work to help clear it. So that's really my little niche area. So I think homeopathy is a great healing modality, but it's just different than what you do. Yeah, and it's a whole separate study, kind of like Ayurvedic medicine. It is a whole separate study.
Yeah. And I'm a little bit familiar with the Ayurvedic just because we have this really amazing guy who's been on the show, Marty Rawson. He's an Ayurvedic medicine practitioner. So very fascinating, all of it, especially when it comes to taking care of your body in an alternative way that doesn't require prescription, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like it. So Libertas, I will ask around to my people and see if anyone recommends a book that would assist you in that way. But in the meantime, we are visiting with Dr. Rita Louise, and I know I said this earlier, but I am so glad that you reached out to me to talk and get to know you better and share your new work. It's going to be really neat the rest of the show.
Good. I don't know. You seem like a good fit.
Really?
You know what I mean?
Good.
I was just like looking through and I'm like, that's the show.
Oh, well, I'm glad that you feel that way. We do talk about everything that you've been discussing is what we do go over on the show, but really it's about having these real conversations and getting to know each other on a personal level. Because we, as human beings, I don't know if the connections are being made as much as I feel like they ought to be. And having a platform like this is really neat because not only are we connecting on a very authentic level, we're also able to share with the world so that they can get these little juicy nuggets along the way also.
Mm-hmm.
Can't complain about that.
No.
Can't. It won't do you any good. All right, guys, we're going to take our break, and we're at the halftime mark. So when we return, we'll get deeper into this new book that Dr. Rita has written, The Dysfunctional Dance of the Empath and Narcissist. We'll be right back.
Digital broadcast station.
It's a whole new way of life.
Salt Lake City, Utah. Hudson Valley, New York.
Saucer is the leading innovator of original and authentic UFO-inspired essentials and apparel, symbolizing self-enrichment and advancement. Believe in style and elevate your craft at thesaucerbrand.com.
Hi, I'm your host, Smokey Colbert, filling in for Smokey because after 75 years of...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Turns out there's much more to say. Nearly 90% of wildfires are caused by us humans being careless, dumping our used barbecue coals willy-nilly. Guess the song was wrong. We did start the fire. That's why I respect Mother Nature and her trees, whether coniferous or new car scented. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Hi, Matt Ray with America's First News here, and I have great news for those of you who suffer with debilitating migraine headaches, maybe a loved one or your child does. MigraLeaf, the nutritional migraine supplement everyone's talking about, now can be found at the vitamin shop stores nationwide and Meijer in the Midwest. For almost 2 decades, hundreds of thousands of migraine sufferers have benefited from MigraLeaf, and thousands of neurologists and headache specialists recommend it. Why is it popular? It's drug-free and addresses the specific nutritional needs of adults and children who suffer migraines. What's even better, MigraLeaf comes in a formula you can take daily and one on the spot as needed. So if you get migraines, get your life back on track. Go to MIG911.com. That's MIG and the numbers 911.com. That's also where you can read the testimonials. Or head on over to your local vitamin shop store nationwide or Meijer in the Midwest. If you get migraines, do yourself a favor. Change your life with MigraLeaf.
What UFO convention are we going to this year?
We're going to the Laughlin UFO Mega Conference February 15th through the 22nd.
I went to their website, LaughlinUFOMegaconference.com, and confirmed we're going to see the best speaker lineup ever offered.
Yes, the greatest gathering of scientists, researchers, and experiencers ever assembled in one place and time. 39 great new presentations over 8 days.
And all at the lowest cost, including 3 social party meal nights with drinks. The Laughlin UFO Mega Conference out contacts that thing in the desert. It out ancient histories, that alien con job. And it out internationals, the International UFO Congress, bringing us 9 speakers from out of the USA this year alone.
8 days in Laughlin, February 15th through 22nd. The best speaker lineup ever. Incredible disclosures. Lowest cost for the best event.
Go to LaughlinUFOMegaconference.com. That's LaughlinUFOMegaconference.com. Register now.
Expand your perception of reality.
You guys are the best. Yeah.
KGRARadio.com.
Hello, you are listening to Soul Wanderings on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, Salt Lake City, Utah, Hudson Valley, New York. And you can find Soul Wanderings here and many other platforms like iTunes, iHeartRadio, TalkStream Live, Spreaker, Spotify. We're just all over the place. But be sure to check out the official KGRA Radio on YouTube. That's where all of the latest show archives are being held. So make sure you guys check it out. Tonight we are wandering with our guest, Dr. Rita Louise. She's just multi-talented. I do have to say that. She is a writer, however, a best-selling author. And the latest writing, the latest creation that she has put out into the world is the dysfunctional dance of the empath and narcissist. So before we begin, why don't you explain to us a little bit about what an empath is and what a narcissist is for those who aren't really familiar with the term?
Okay. So an empath is someone who is very sensitive to energy. And so I believe that people are brought into the world and can be, I'm going to say, more sensitive, or highly sensitive to what's going on around them, but people that are empaths kind of take that notion and kind of amp it up a little bit. And like everything on the planet, there's a spectrum. And so you can have a little bit of sensitivity or you can have a lot of sensitivity. People that are empaths tend to be what's considered a psychic sponge. And so if they go into an environment, they will naturally just kind of absorb what's going on around them and take it into their auric field and then have to deal with that, and many times they will think that what's going on is actually their issue, their energy, but often it's not the case, and so they might react to what they're feeling and what they're sensing, but it's not because they necessarily feel that way. It's because they're being activated by what's going on around them, and I joke around, and poor Walmart. So AJ, just tell me if this is true for you, but
I don't even.
Can you navigate Walmart?
No. None of the department stores or big places like that. I have a really challenging time.
Okay, and for people that are listening that are not sure if you're an empath, one of my simple ways of trying to figure out whether you are or not is if you can go into Walmart with a mental list and actually walk out the store with everything on your mental list and not be aggravated, frustrated, or you're just scratching yourself out of your own skin, then you might be an empath. Because people that are empathic, big crowds in an area. I mean, for me, Walmart, I go at 8:00 in the morning because there's nobody there, and I can actually navigate the store with a list. And then I have to go through the list line by line and cross stuff out. I used to do a lot of trade shows, and, some of them were busy, 12,000 people, 15,000 people. And oh my God, I couldn't leave my booth. I just couldn't go because it was just overload.
Yeah.
So, so if you have that problem, in your day-to-day life, then you just might be an empath.
Right.
And a lot of people think that ability is, either a blessing or a curse. Well, it's a blessing when you are thinking about someone and you get feelings about them, or you are picking up their vibe, and so that can be the really cool part of it. And then there's the Walmart part, which really kind of sucks.
Right.
But with the empath part, and you can be a wounded empath, okay? And so a wounded empath is an empath who has experienced a lot of early life trauma and has issues, has self-worth issues, has things going on inside that make them be more vulnerable to, and I'm just going to say generically at this moment, to predators.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to be kind and loving, warm and sensitive, agreeable. But if they have wounding, you might find that these individuals are people pleasers, and they spend their time and energy trying to make the people around them and the people in their lives feel good and feel comfortable without regard for themselves. So they might be running on empty, but they're still the one getting up to go take care of something, even though, they've been doing everything else as part of the whole process. And it is those individuals, again, these people pleasers, that are the ones that tend to get in a little bit of trouble in the relationship department.
Correct. Very accurate.
And so if you're the type of person that can't say no to someone, so you've just worked a 12-hour shift and this is your third 12-hour shift this week and it's your first day off and a friend says, hey, can you help me move? And you're like, oh, but I really need to stay in bed. And you have this internal dialogue going on, but, and I need to do laundry and I have to go grocery shopping and this is all going on internally. And then you go, oh, sure. What time do you need me there? You might be a people pleaser. And you might want to look at that process, which is probably what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, good.
Okay. So then there are the narcissists, and so narcissists, I think, are also sensitive, but they lack empathy. So they are unable to or more unwilling to step into the shoes of how somebody else is going to feel because they don't really even want to feel their own feelings. Mm-hmm. They're experts at hiding their true selves. And so they might come off as being very charming, very loving, very compassionate. They might seem loud and overt, or they might seem quiet and sensitive. But the reality is that this personality, they can turn on and they can turn off. And if they want or need something from you, they're your bestest friends. But if you can't give them what they need from you, they will dump you in a heartbeat. Boom. Bye. And so they end up being like master manipulators. And, their goal is to control you and to control your energy. And, and I see these people as being, the ultimate energy vampires. So whether it's just, talking to you incessantly for forever, or, getting you to do stuff for them, that they don't really want to do because they think it's your responsibility to meet their needs. But when it's their turn to step up to the plate and help you to meet your needs, they can't be found. They're not interested in helping and supporting somebody else. Mm-hmm. And so, I've heard tons of stories, and I think we've all heard these stories of, whether it's ourselves or a friend, complaining. It's like, I help all of these people and I'm always there for them and doing this. And, and then I got sick last year and I, couldn't get out of bed for 2 weeks and I couldn't get anybody to bring food to my house. And it's like, so what happened to all my friends? And it's like, well, maybe it's because your circle of friends were all really narcissistic.
Mm.
Isn't that sad?
It is. It is very sad.
But that's where we get into that dysfunctional dance. And I'm just going to make this little teaser because I'm sure we're going to get into this, but there's a dynamic that happens between the people pleaser who is going and helping you move after 3 12-hour shifts and these people who aren't really interested in supporting anybody else's agenda.
Right.
And I'll just put a period there.
Period. Not the end.
Not the end. Just a period on that sentence to give the mic back to you for a little bit.
Oh, you actually can talk as much as you want. That's the beautiful thing about the show. But I kind of gave the definitions, and there's like several different directions we can go. So I'm giving it back to you to pick. It really, really. Do you feel like so you have a room full of people. Do you feel like it would be safe to say that, I'm not throwing out exact numbers, but say half would be empaths and half would be narcissists? Is it that kind of situation that we're dealing with people, like half of us are empaths and half of us are narcissists, or are there different other personality types that don't fit into either category? Because I don't know if it's trendy right now or if it's just becoming our awareness more so, like we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. This whole dynamic between the empath and narcissist is really coming up a lot in conversations all over the.
I think that, by nature, there's a group of people that tend to be givers and healers, and there are another group of people that tend to be takers. Whether it's 50-50, really hard to tell.
Yeah.
And I've never really, it's like giver or taker. I mean, no one's ever really done a survey like that. So it's, I don't know that I really want to speculate, but I do know that when you start doing the healing part, so if you're an empath and you start doing the healing work on yourself so that you are no longer in that people pleaser category, that you are no longer willing to be around people that are narcissistic, and you find that your circle of friends change, which is always a very good sign if you're working on yourself and working to love yourself, and then you're like, but all my friends have dumped me. It's because probably all your friends were narcissists, and you need to pat yourself on the back because you're changing your energy and you're going to attract to you people of a much higher vibration. But you find that healed, the empaths will tend to gather together, and form community with between themselves, because that's what they want. They want the dynamics, they want the interaction, they want the love, they want the compassion. Right. And the narcissists just want you, and your time and your energy.
Want everything.
And it just makes me wonder, because, you get a couple of narcissists in a room together, and it's like, I guess the one that wins is the one that's more narcissistic. And do they just end up being lone, sorry, scary old people? Because no one wants to deal with them unless they find, like a really wounded and sensitive empath who will put up with them till the day they die.
Right. That haven't done the work.
Correct.
So when you are getting into a new relationship or found a new best friend or whatever that looks like, what are some things that you should look for if you are an empath? What are some warning signs that you should be on the lookout for to keep yourself out of a friendship / relationship that's toxic like this?
So I think some of the things that you should look for is, do you feel safe when you're, this book tends to be a little more in the romantic area, but it does apply to our friendship. But do you feel safe when this person? Do you feel comfortable with this person? Are you happy? I was having a conversation the other day talking about, and I kind of brought it up here, so you're on the phone with a friend, a new friend, and what you discover is you're on the phone and they're blah, 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 AJ, blah, 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 blah. And then you think there's a pause in the conversation, and so you make one statement and they go, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. And the next thing you know, you're on the phone for an hour and you've said like 2 sentences.
Yeah.
That's usually a pretty good sign, because they're controlling the energy. And where it really, sometimes you can have a conversation with someone and it's interesting and exciting and you're learning from it, and, you want to hear what they have to say. And so even though they might be talking a lot, you want to hear what they have to say. But if you are on the phone and, you're like, okay, are they going to shut up, or when am I going to get a chance to talk? Or actually, this is the ultimate. So I had a girlfriend. I love this story. And that's what she would do. Well, actually, she would call me up at 8:00 in the morning at work, and I would make the fatal mistake. And I would ask her, so how are you doing? Big mistake. Well, my period started and I have cramps and and it was just like, oh my God, it's 8:00 in the friggin' morning, and you're already starting. And so she started dating this gentleman, and she was somewhere and went to the bathroom. I don't remember, but they were over at my house, and he was like, oh yeah, she does that to me. He goes, and I put the phone down and I go and wash the dishes. And then I pick the phone up and go, and put the phone down and go and vacuum my living room. And then I pick the phone up and go, really? Oh, okay. And he puts the phone down. I thought it was hysterical, but in hindsight, what I realized was that I was trained from a young age to just stand there and I'm putting this in quotes, take it, to allow this situation to suck energy off me. And so even though internally it's like, aren't you ever going to let me say anything? Or when does this conversation end? Or, what can I do to break this so I can get off the phone and escape? It's about learning to step up to the plate for yourself and going, oh, well, I got to take out the garbage.
Right. It is part of the healing process that we go through once we learn that we are more empathic. And you learn that, right? As you go along in these relationships, this isn't working for me and it's exhausting.
Correct. Because, and if you are in a relationship, friendship or not, and when you are spending time with them, that you actually just feel exhausted and drained. You know that it's not helpful. It's not a healing relationship. If your thoughts, your needs and desires are not being acknowledged or addressed in the relationship, then that's not a good sign. If you find that you're spending all of your time fixing them and fixing their problems and helping them, fix their resume and then taking them to get their car fixed and, it's just one drama after another, and maybe really it's not a good situation.
Right.
And you need to look at that and maybe step out of it. But a lot of the times, and this is empath, not empath, but many times it's you're in the relationship or you tend to stay in the relationship because you're looking for companionship. You're looking for love. You're looking for community.
I was just about to ask you, why do people even stay in relationships when they are so blatantly unhappy?
Some people stay because from a financial perspective, they don't think they can make it on their own. I have a very good friend who would whine about her husband, and I'm like, well, why don't you just go? You have a business. And she goes, well, my business doesn't make enough money. And I'm like, okay, so you're there because you want your husband to support you, basically. It's and I'm thinking, because I wasn't going to say this out loud. It's well, you could go get a job.
Yeah.
There
are solutions.
Yeah, but they don't want to hear that solution. They just, rather just stay.
Do you think that's their programming, just the way that they are? They just don't know any better. They don't know how to try harder or do something different.
I think that sometimes it's the programming, that they have self-worth issues. And so they don't think that they're going to be able to survive or they're not going to be able to make it on their own. Yeah. Some people, like in my girlfriend's case, it was easier to just put up and shut up than to go and do something else because she had a pretty sweet life. Can you imagine being married to a multimillionaire, but your relationship stinks? It's would you really want to move away from that and get a job at McDonald's? And you know what I mean? So, some of these people stay in relationships because it's more comfortable.
Yeah. I guess I can see that from an outside perspective, why that would be convenient for them if that was the experience they were having. But also, as you work on yourself and really heal those inner experiences that you've had, you know that you are wasting your time. We're only here for a blink in existence, and you want to soak up every moment possible and do all the things that feel good versus settling.
But then there's also being in your integrity. I don't know. I don't think I could show up to the relationship knowing that I was just not happy. And, and there, in those situations, there's an end to it, and I'm not interested in working on it, or fixing the relationship, and I've just kind of given up, and I just, show up in bed every night. Yeah. Man, I couldn't do that.
No, thanks. Yeah. It's exhausting, especially as an empath. Like, once you really learn what things wear you out, you no longer want those things anymore. I know before I even knew I was an empath, like, everything was exhausting, and everybody, just being around them just wore me out because I didn't realize that I was taking on so much. And then I thought I was crazy because I was feeling all of these different emotions in an hour span, highs and lows, and wondering why and what's going on because I was fine 5 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how anyone wouldn't think for a moment, like, hey, this doesn't feel good. What can I do to change this? After they realize or have been shown or told or whatever that they are an empath and there are ways to work through this.
Well, I think that for a number of people, they get scared of changing, and scared of not really knowing what's on the other side of, the door or the situation. I mean, because the woman who dumps the multimillionaire, I'm just totally making this up, might, because they were married to the multimillionaire, land a job doing corporate relations and get paid, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, which would keep them in the lifestyle in which they become accustomed to. Mm-hmm. It could happen.
It could.
It could. But you would never find that out, and be really happy because you're self-sufficient, you're taking care of yourself, you now have the time to work on yourself. Mm-hmm. But you'd never find that out unless you are willing to take the risk, right, and take the chance on yourself, on making yourself happy.
Very true. But we as humans, we resist that change so easily. Why do you think we do that?
Well, because we're afraid, and, and I find it really interesting. I think growing up, I was always afraid, but people that know me, and excuse my French here, many of them have commented to me that they think I have the biggest balls of anybody they know, because it's kind of like, oh, you want me to do that? Okay. Not like jump out of an airplane kind of stuff, but, but just put myself out there, and expose myself or do this work or whatever it is. And, and they're like, well, you're fearless. And it's like, no, I'm not fearless. It's like, I just am able to go, okay, I'm scared to death, but that's okay, because I recognize the fear as being resistance, because I don't know what's on the other side. And if it's terrible, I can always quit and go back or whatever. Right. But I kind of shifted the energy on it.
Yeah, where fear is so good at controlling us. Mm-hmm. It is legitimate, but on the other side of fear is freedom, as I always say. You get through that fear, you have the positive emotions, the happiness and joy and freedom.
And even in the case of the, multi-million-dollar spouse, she might feel content and happier working a job at McDonald's because she doesn't have the pressure of the home life, and the pressure of the potentially narcissistic husband that, is abusive or, neglectful or whatever. And they, you just don't know.
Right. And you don't.
And I think, we were talking about listening to that inner prompting. I feel like, people get that all the time. And even when you're in a relationship, you get that all the time, but we choose not to listen to it.
Right. It's inconvenient.
Yeah. Those dumb old spirits, they don't know what they're talking about, and we second guess it and we justify it, it's like, well, they didn't really mean it. Well, that's really not what happened, and basically lie to ourselves.
Right. But the universe does have a way of, if we're not going to make that choice for ourselves, it will present an opportunity for the choice to be made for us. It's beautiful how it always works out that way.
Well, and I'm just, sharing with the listeners, but usually it's not very pretty.
No, not at all. So listen to that inner feeling. It's a much easier process. We're going to take our last break of the show. Oh my gosh, time flies, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And when we return, we'll continue learning more about your creation, this book, this beautiful book that you put out into the world. So stay close, everyone. We'll be right back.
Author Kathleen Watts, a.k.a. Thought Continuum, shares a double abduction experience in her book, Catch Me If You Can, a story of alien abduction and culprit plunder. This 1976 true life account of a close encounter in northern Utah near Hill Air Force Base. Imagine driving home from the movies with your spouse when your car suddenly stops working, and it's in that very same moment that you realize you are the only thing animated. Catch Me If You Can, the 5th anniversary edition with lead-in material for the upcoming release of Payback is a Glitch from award-winning author Kathleen Watts. Get your copy today. Log on to thoughtcontinuum.com. That's thoughtcontinuum.com.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Feeling sluggish, bloated, gassy, and, well, want some relief? Try Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. Our unique blend of all natural herbs go to work on your digestive tract, giving you So before you try our super strength formula. It does a great job removing intruders that jack you up. Thousands of people use Life Change Tea every month, so try it because you're gonna love the way you feel. And here's a little pick-me-up. Order now and receive 10% off your first order by entering in 10 today in the coupon code. That's 10 today in the coupon code. Go to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Enter 10 today in the coupon code for your 10% discount. Wow, feeling good never felt so good. Get some tea love at getthetea.com. Changing America one tea bag at a time.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Find the podcast on iTunes, iHeart, and Spotify. KGRARadio.com. This is Soul Wanderings Radio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. You are listening to Soul Wanderings here on KGRAradio.com. Tonight we are wandering with our guest, Dr. Rita Louise, and we are diving deeper into her newest book, The Dysfunctional Dance of the Empath and Narcissist. So, dysfunctional dance. Do you believe that a empath and narcissist could live harmoniously in a relationship, or is that just impossible?
I mean, I think they could be in a relationship, but I don't think that the empath in particular would be happy.
Mm-hmm. They would get the short end of the stick.
Well, they'd get the working end of the stick.
Yes, definitely.
They'd get the working end, and I guess for some people, they might see that because of their programming and because of their wounding as, well, this is what you do in a relationship, and this is what it means to love somebody. And actually, I'm going to say that that's a fact because that's kind of how I went in. It's like, well, this is what you do. You're supposed to support each other, and you just keep doing that until they do something really stupid that, crosses one of your ultimate boundaries, and then you're gone. But then they will sit there and it's be like, I won't do it again. We'll go to counseling. It'll all be better, until they do it again, and again. And again, and you forgive them, and and that's what you see in situations where, especially where there's physical abuse. I mean, you would think, why would someone who is being beaten stay? They know that it's not right, but it's this whole dynamic, it's this whole dance. It's like, oh, I'm sweet and loving to you, but now you said something that kind of irritated me, so I'm going to start to punish you, whether it's verbally or mentally or, physically. And now that cycle has ended and you're trying to get away and escape. And it's like, oh, no, I didn't mean it, and it's this whole dance. I mean, I don't know any other word to use, really, that keeps pulling the empath back into the relationship to stay and take more. Yeah. And it's dysfunctional. I don't even want to say it's sad. It's dysfunctional. And so unless you're able to recognize that what you're doing is not healthy, then you can't really work on changing it. And so in my book, it's not a memoir. It is a book to help people understand what's going on inside of me that is causing me to want to stay in this relationship. Why is it that, I don't go, or why do I keep attracting these kind of people? And what do I need to do to not do that anymore? Because, it's not good. It's not healthy. For the individual. I mean, the narcissists, they don't really care, because they're just looking for somebody to, get quote unquote narcissistic supply. Right. One of the things that I found really interesting in doing this research is that people that are narcissistic have a very specific pattern with vocabulary. I was like, get out of town. There's a word for that behavior, and weird things that they do that are very narcissistic, and so, because you just think, oh, well, this is this person, and, whatever, and you don't really think, oh, well, this is actually a narcissistic behavior. Mm-hmm. And so, so for me, as an example, one of the ones that was like this giant light bulb going off, and actually, I have the text open in front of me just so I can kind of keep track. I made this comment. if you believe you might be in a relationship with a narcissist, flashing lights and sirens might start going off in your head as you read about all of the odd and peculiar deeds you might have experienced, because they do some weird stuff. They're one of the terms that I learned, which I didn't even know was a thing, was gaslighting, which is a form of emotional manipulation where something happens, they break something, and then they lie about it. It's like, oh, well, I didn't say that, or I didn't do that. They'll hide your stuff. They will talk to you about your friends and family like, oh, well, so-and-so said blah, blah, blah about you. So now you're looking at your friends and family and kind of separating and making distance from the people that are going to be there to support you.
Right. And they want that, though, too.
Yeah, they want that, but if you're not aware that you're being manipulated, because it really is kind of subtle, or you don't really know what to say or do about it because it's just weird. Quick story. So the last boyfriend, the one that started this whole thing, my house has 2 stories, and so I had a pair of shoes sitting on the bottom of the stairs that I was going to take up. But it was the middle of the summer, and I was putting them on a lot, and so I just kind of left them there because I maybe would want to put them on to go outside. And I come downstairs one day, and there's only one shoe. And I'm like, okay, well, did you see my shoe? I don't know. I haven't seen it anywhere. I'm like, right. Because now I'm getting used to like this really weird behavior.
Right.
And so I'm like looking under the sofa and looking behind, this cabinet over here, looking. I can't find the freaking shoe. Now, why would I just put one shoe somewhere? My dog was too small to lift it. We're the only 2 people in the house. What happened to the shoe? 6 months later. All right, and this sounds bad. I was dusting and I was cleaning off a bookcase and I found my shoe behind a stack of books.
Oh my goodness, because you put it there, right?
I didn't put it there. Oh, right. Yeah, I put it there. Yeah, that's it. I put it there. Yeah, and then he said, oh, I must have been answering the door and I might have just put it there, to when I answered the door. Yeah, behind the books.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But that to me is just so freaking weird, and so, but there is like a whole series of things that they will employ: the silent treatment, cognitive dissonance, flying monkeys, hoovering, love bombing. That when you sit there and you read through this, if you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, I swear to God, you can go tick, 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 because they do them all.
Yeah.
And that's the scarier part, is that they're very consistent.
Very consistent. And would you consider narcissism an illness?
So I think that everyone has, or not, most people, everyone, we all have a little self-serving parts of ourselves, but that's healthy. It means that we love ourselves, but then there are people that take it too far. And, in the medical journals, there is something that's called narcissistic personality disorder. Mm-hmm. It's a cluster B disorder. And in that group is borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, and psychopathic personality disorder. And I've been asked if people that are narcissists do the things they do intentionally, and I think there's some stuff that they do intentionally, that they just, how can you unintentionally hide somebody's shoe?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that there is a certain level of intentionality, but I think a lot of their behaviors is just because it's just what they do, where the difference is, so one of the defining characteristics of the cluster B personalities is a certain level of narcissism, and people that are psychotic, have very high levels of narcissism, except they intend to do stuff. So that's where you find your serial killers, because it's like, oh, I killed him, and they have absolutely no empathy, and they don't really care, and they do mean and manipulative and hurtful things on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Once you get into this type of a relationship and you're aware that this is going on, and you leave the relationship only to find yourself in a new relationship with the same type of situation, how do you break that cycle?
Well, we've been kind of talking about this on and off. It really is about healing yourself, because you can be an empath and not get involved with narcissists.
Right.
It's when you are a wounded empath, when you are a people pleaser, and you are giving, and the narcissist is taking, and that giving isn't in alignment with, I am choosing to give because I am choosing to give. Mm-hmm. Where if you're in more of a people pleasing mode, you're giving and there's not any consciousness tied to you giving your energy away. Mm-hmm. And so when you start healing yourself, and creating boundaries, that foul 10-letter word, and loving yourself and deciding that I have value, I have merit, then you can, you might still attract narcissists into your life because you're kind and loving and you have a light that they're attracted to, like a moth. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that you have to stay in the relationship a long time. And that's really where the difference comes. It's like, oh, well, I'm seeing these flags and I'm getting the heck out of here. Quick. Really quick.
Right. So you wrote this book, obviously on a prompting like you shared, but from your own journey, your own experience.
The book has, well, I'm going to say 2 chapters. I mean, there's one chapter that kind of tells my story, and then a follow-up at the end, because there really was a happily ever after for me, which was like, ow. But it was more sharing my intellectual journey into understanding what the heck was going on. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think my favorite chapter writing this was, the lifestyle of the narcissistic relationship, because it talked about these very predictable stages that the relationship went through, and was like, again, I was kind of shocked because there was absolutely no awareness, and so my point in the book is about raising awareness about what's going on. When you are with someone who is a narcissist, it's like they want to occupy your time, and they want to get you into a situation where you kind of are trapped, mm-hmm. So that they can have more control over you. And so, my relationship with that guy ended, thank God. Well, I got rid of him. And, and then, it wasn't my intention to get involved with somebody else very quickly, but, it was only about 5 months later that I found myself dating a gentleman. And he seemed really great and really interested. And so in my mind, because now I have vocabulary, it's like, oh, but what if he's just love bombing me? Maybe he's just like acting like he's all into me because, he's just really a freaking narcissist. Right. So.
And that happens. You question it.
Well, but you have the questions to ask now. Mm-hmm. You go into it way more prepared, and so at the time, and I mean, I'll share the story. It's in the book. He was living 148.2 miles away. in a camper. He was doing pipeline jobs and was kind of traveling around the country. Now you kind of think, oh, well, that's interesting. But he's retired military. He retired as a colonel, so that gives him some cred, for not just being a scumbag. And had just returned from Italy and working there. And so was just doing this work, to work. And so after not very long, he said, well, maybe I could move my trailer. He goes, I don't need to do this job, and I really don't want to do it anymore. Maybe I can move my trailer closer to you. I had a freaking meltdown. I mean, just a meltdown, because now I'm like, okay, well, now he's like future faking me, and like wanting to move closer, and he's going to come and help me around my house. And I'm like, this is what I wrote in the book. Red alert, danger, Will Robinson, danger. Can you add future faking to that order of love bombing? To say I panicked was an understatement. And so even when, if you've gone through these situations, you might meet a great guy, but unless you really know what to look for and what questions to ask, and, you can end up with another narcissist, or you can end up with somebody great, or you could just be afraid and not end up with anybody because you're not willing to put yourself out there.
Right.
Because I have to tell you, this colonel guy, he's freaking awesome.
Oh, good.
Awesome. It is my happily ever after part of the story. And,
deserve a happily ever after.
Mm-hmm. And so it is possible, but it really is about working on yourself, looking at what you're bringing to the table. Where are my deficits? And, and as I think any of your listeners know, it's life. Life is about the journey, and we're always learning and we're always growing, and so this is just one part of that journey of learning and growing to be a wholer and fuller individual.
Right. And that is part of our experience here on Earth, is to have these types of relationships or other types of relationships to find our worth and to find out who we really are and what our value is.
Mm-hmm.
So important.
Well, and I think it's interesting, they say that, adversity is character building. And I think that there are some people that just have more character than other people. And, but I can't imagine, personally, having a life, living a life where there was nothing ever happening and there wasn't a mountain to conquer or something challenging me to make myself bigger and better. I mean, maybe not so hard, but,
Yeah, but I
would be okay with not so hard.
Character builders for sure.
But I feel like, one of the things that I believe is that, the work that we do in this lifetime prepares us for our next life, and I'm like, I'm just going to do everything in my power to knock off as many little check boxes as I can in this lifetime so that I don't have to come back and fix it in another lifetime.
Yeah.
It sucked now. I don't want it to suck the next time. So I just as soon face the fear, work through it, and be done with it.
And it sounds like you're doing exactly that.
That's the goal.
If we all were like that, could you imagine? It really has been so much fun getting to know you. How can others find out more about you? How can they contact you? How can they get your books?
Okay.
That sort of thing.
Sure. So my webpage is soulhealer.com, soulhealer.com, soulhealer.com. My book, The Dysfunctional Dance, is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. I mean, all of my books are available online, as well as my videos, on Amazon. This book, actually, I released the print edition and the Kindle Nook, the e-version. If you are interested in getting an autograph copy, then you can just order a book directly from my webpage, soulhealer.com, because any book that I send out comes autographed. And if you would like your name inscribed in it, shoot me an email and I'll make sure that I do that.
I love personalized books. That's the way I want to get my copy.
Okay.
And one more time on the website, your website.
Yeah, it's soulhealer.com. But I'm sure if you type Rita Louise into any search engine, I'm everywhere.
You are. You did pop up very easily. So soulhealer.com or Google Rita Louise.
Yes, ma'am.
So awesome. I am so happy you reached out to me and wanted to share your story and your new book with us. It's just been so awesome. And I'd love to have you on the show again in the future. Shall you find yourself with the desire to do so, please do reach out again.
Well, that sounds wonderful. I talk about so many different things that people are like, whoa, we didn't even get into this topic at all. It's like,
right.
No.
And I noticed you have a plethora of things that we could talk about. And this was just one show. And I'm like, we could talk about so many other things with all of your knowledge. And I would really like to talk about your Dark Angels book. That one would be right up my alley.
Okay. We can do that.
Fun. So, all right. Well, thank you again for being here. You have a beautiful night.
You too, and happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, thanks. Just another day in my book, but okay. As well. Soul Wanderings can be found on all of the main social media platforms, as well as soulwanderings.com, a website in progress. And of course, make sure you guys are following KGRA Radio on YouTube. Like and subscribe and share with your friends and family. And I always say, let's keep having these conversations that bring movement and awareness and awakening into our experiences. Be authentic and genuine with each other. And I really appreciate all of you and everyone here at the KGRA studios, all of the listeners, wanderers, all of you people, you humans out in the world. Thanks. Thanks for being here, and good night.